The Alberta Men's Survey was developed by over 50 men and 10 women concerned about men's well-being and the promotion of healthy, nonviolent relationships. On April 28, 2015, prior to launching the survey in the community, the survey leadership team convened for a full day of research training. This training was organized by the Faculty of Social Work, University of Calgary, in partnership with the Ethnocultural Council of Calgary, City of Edmonton Community Services, and the Alberta Father Involvement Initiative. 27 participants attended, including community members and organizations, agencies, funders, government representatives, academics, and students. The research training includes several modules, one of which is presented here. The purpose of this research training was to prepare the leadership team and research assistants to implement the Alberta Men's Survey and to also develop a community-friendly research teaching series that can be used by others. We would like to extend our appreciation to the Ethnocultural Council of Calgary and the United Way of Calgary and Area for making this video series possible.
So this is just a quick presentation on what is community-based research. And because this project is community-based research, we thought we'd start by just grounding ourselves in this type of research. So, okay, this doesn't work. There we go. Okay, so first of all, community-based research at its very basic function offers us a way to engage with each other and engage with the places that we live, both locally and globally. So we're part of local communities as well as global communities, and that's a big starting point. Now, I wanted to conceptualize community-based research visually, and I think, and I did it sort of with this bouncy ball sort of metaphor, and I think that it really goes great that Adrian's presentation was first because it was focused on who are we first, and I think that is the crucial first step in understanding what is community-based research, is first asking ourselves, who am I, who are we, and why are we here? And that is the first step of building community dialogue. And I think that's been a lot of the work that ManC is doing, and I think that is what we're doing here. And it's a great jumping off point. And to me, it's like throwing a bouncy ball off a set of stairs, really thinking about who we are. Because it starts the ball rolling of, if you see here, investigating, reflecting, educating, and then moving to acting. So the bouncy ball turns at each move, and then it goes into critical points. So like this training today is a critical point along the continuum. And I think that really at every step of the way in community-based research, we're trying to investigate, reflect, educate, and act. And I think that's what we're doing here. This survey is not just to get a picture of what men feel like they need, but it's also a way for us to investigate that, but also to reflect on that, and which will enable us to build a tool to educate others, educate ourselves, and then promote action. And I see this as like a conceptualization of community-based research and the way that it moves along, and the way that it's never ending. It's always moving along, and the different steps along each time the bouncy ball bounces, it builds the momentum. And that's what we're doing here, is we're building the momentum. And I think that when we're asking ourselves who we are, we're locating ourselves in our personality types, but also our institutional locations, our social locations. We acknowledge ourselves who we are holistically, as family members, as allies. So, and this is a crucial step to community-based research. So why are we so focused on who we are? Aren't we the researchers? But I think that community-based research, such an important part, is to be critically engaged with yourself so that you can become engaged with others. The old adage of know thyself and you will know, in order to know others better, I think that really holds true. And I think that to know ourselves, it helps us listen better to others, but it also helps us form partnerships with others. And I think that is a huge part of what we're doing here, and what this project is all about, is really forming partnerships. And I think that these first steps of creating partnerships and knowing ourselves and being aware of our own locations, both institutional and social, really then help us to diffuse those locations and to now blur the rules, because we all come into this room with our own expertise, our own roles. You know, we may be the boss at work, we may be in charge of the research here or in this project, but when we come here and when we engage in this type of research, our roles are blurred, and we become grounded in the communities that we're in. And I think that is a huge part of effective community-based research, and creating a more egalitarian and equitable way of doing research. So community-based research is community situated. So so the research emerges from a community. So it emerges from what the community feels that they need or they want, and that's a theme that will continue throughout. And this survey that we're doing was developed just that way. It was developed through community members and really bringing up what they wanted to investigate, what they wanted to better understand, so that they could create change in the community and educate other community members. Community-based research is collaborative. That's part of the essence of community-based research. So it means community members and academics and people from organizations all come together to collaborate, rather than a top-down approach. And finally, it's action-oriented, which is a huge part of community-based research, is that it's not research for the sake of research, or just looking to better understand things. There's always the future goal of action, of it coming to something that we can now act upon and create change and do something with. And I think that in this project, it's very much like that. It's not a short-sighted project. There's the long term, there's the bigger picture, and I think we all need to keep that in mind and always be thinking about what can this lead to in terms of action in our community, in terms of change in our community. Oh, thank you. So, so community-based research represents a break in traditional research practices. So, one of the things that signifies that break is that the community really are the ones driving the research, really are the ones saying this is what we want, this is what we need, and we're going to do it, rather than people going in and saying this is what you need, this is what we're going to give you. You know, so it's a new approach, and it's a different approach, and it signifies a break with traditional research methods and approaches. So, you know, it seeks to answer these questions with the community, and it seeks to and it's a conduit for communities to really build change within themselves and really address issues that they feel are important to them. It's people working together, and it's people working together, and it's bringing different voices into the fold and giving ownership to people that normally wouldn't get ownership in a research project. So community-based research really functions to rethink power relations, especially power relations that exist within the academic fields and within professional fields. It really fights against top-down research methods, as I spoke to before, where researchers go in and they're in charge and they write the thing and they got all the credit and the ownership. It's really, community-based research really wants to put the power back in the people's hands, back in the community's hands, and that means really rethinking ways of doing research at each step. So developing questions, the methodology, the analysis, the observation. It means at every step that there's critical engagement with how power relations operate in our society within the academic field. It strives to address it within the academic field, within the lives of the people doing the research, within the lives of the community members, and within the lives and within the organizations that are all a part of it, a part of the research. So because if there isn't that critical self-reflection, and if there isn't that critical piece as to how power relations really are integral in how knowledge is created, then we run the risk of just exacerbating those power relations and furthering them. So really that critical reflection on who we are is so important to community-based research. One thing is that community-based research is an approach. It's not a method, it's not a set of procedures, and there's no handbook on how to do it from A to Z. Community-based research is an approach, and it's an ideology, and it's an orientation, and it's a set of principles, which in short, it's a framework. And so it really provides us with an open frame for different methods, for different ways of doing research. And that's important. And it's important that within this frame, the research methods emerge as based on the specific context of the community and based on collaboration with the community. So, this survey is part of that. This method emerged based on what the community felt was best for understanding its needs. So there's no one particular method, and in fact, there's tons of research that is using methods that are very untraditional in the academic field, but lead to insight and knowledge that you wouldn't be able to access in a different way. And it's through this framework that we're really allowed to explore that type of knowledge. And I think that, and here is that we all have different ways of knowing, different ways of viewing the world, and who we are, really affects how we see the world, how we see others around us. And that's where that critical reflection comes into play. But it also means that community-based research really rethinks what type of knowledge is valid and what type of knowledge counts, and that we listen to. Because so often, it's one way, and these are the people who know things, and so we're going to ask them. But community-based research really wants to involve all ways of knowing and all ways of being in the world to really get a better understanding of who we are and to better listen to the voices within our community. And so community-based research, it doesn't only allow us to highlight multiple ways of knowing, but it requires us to do this. So it really requires us to think about people's lives, who they are, and how who they are affects the way they view the world around them, while also reflecting on who we are and our own way of knowing, and incorporating that. So, in short, the heart of all community-based research is about relationships, and it's about people. And I think that this room right now is really representative of the heart of community-based research, because it's about coming together, and it's about being a community. It's about not only connecting to our communities, but creating new communities. And I think that is what we're doing here. And it's about working in collaboration with each other and really grounding ourselves in an equitable research framework. That's my presentation. If anyone has any questions, feel free to ask. No? Okay. Yes, Mick?
Yeah, I just wanted to to put forward an observation regarding power relations in community-based research, because we always say that it's actually equalize the playing field between the research population and the researcher. But I think we should also look at if we push it higher, look at who actually sets the research agenda. One, it's still like very centered around academics. And I think we need to push, if we're really fighting for looking at power relations, especially around the ethics, the people approving community-based research, it's still centered in academia. And there's no representative from the community in the ethics board for communities. And I think we have to be mindful of that, because sometimes at the ground, it's really like there's an equality and equity between the research subject and the researchers. But up there, actually, it's still like academic, and the power is still within these people. Just to have that conversation.
Yeah, I think you're right, and I think that we really need to be aware when doing this type of research of who else is involved, because it's not just us. And I think a big part of that is also educating others, educating people who are involved by proxy as to what we're doing here and what we're trying to do.
Yeah, mine is just a contribution to what you already said, and it's also, the fact that what's Adrian and this morning saying that we need to know who we are, in community-based research. We want to go to a community, we want to influence change, but do we actually know these people? So we need to understand that our perception of a particular community may not be, the way the community actually is. So we want to actually learn and find out from the community what are those things, that you feel strongly, are the things that you want to actually, want to see change happen in the community. So we don't just have all the knowledge. Our job, as community organizers, is to probably shape and guide, where we think the community is not doing the right thing. We just say, how about you following this path and see what's, the problem. But we can't decide for them. So, which means we need to also understand them and know them. Like we just did this exercise this morning, saying that we need to know ourselves before we can get to know other people as well.
Yeah, and I think that it's so crucial to decenter the knowledge from ourselves and shift it back to the people we're working with. They're the ones that are most knowledgeable about themselves, about what they need, and what are the issues in their lives, just the way we're most knowledgeable of what's going on in our lives. And I think that's a huge part of this research. A step to that, the first step is being able to listen. And in order to listen, we often need to check our egos at the door. And I think that's what I was trying to put across.
Maybe I have two questions. Based on my understanding from your presentation, for example, like we are from Cambodia, right? And our population, we follow or we learn from the young age about Buddhist teaching, right? So go back to your presentation. Like say our community needs something. For example, need to learn family violence prevention whatsoever. So that means your point of view presentation can lead us to find out that need. Is it possible? Number one. And number two is like say, how can community-based research can help us, our community, take some concept of the Buddha teaching and practice in real life in family violence prevention in the new culture in Canada. You understand where I'm coming from, right? Because most of the community, especially particular from my community, they don't believe that much in Western concept how to deal with people, right? They start with Buddha teaching, and then we should maybe find out some research from the community member how we can put together to work with both culture.
I think you're totally right about that.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big part of what community-based research is trying to do, and what we should do in this field is learning from the communities what steps do you take, and how can we help help facilitate these steps for you.
I have a question. Can you go back to the slide with the bouncing balls?
Sure.
I like in part the slide, but the issue I have is that academic research usually it comes to that point and then you act. You know, you do the research and then you act. And I think part of what I see as community-based policing or PAR is you have to act throughout and wherever community can, when they're doing something, they're meeting, they can do something, or communities or segments of the groups can act on it now. It's not waiting to different bounce points. At any point, people can act and do something in the community. And I think on this, I think the model really, and I've seen it work in community where that's what happens. Things happen organically. We're not waiting for touch points for things to get engaged or things to get done, or things to get evaluated, and then we do something. And I think that's in this model here. I think it needs to be kind of looked at in a little bit different framework. So.
Yeah, I mean, what I was trying to show is that this cycle that happens at the touch points is also happening in every turn of the ball. Okay. So it means that maybe I didn't illustrate it very well, but the action is happening all the time within this, and that the certain touch points are really the focus, but it's always moving, and it's always going through each of those steps, including the action.
Problem with academic research and even government consultation is you wait till you get the report, and then that's months or years after you evaluate, and and a lot of times the community is waiting, and everything stays stagnant while we wait for that report to come. And I think we have to, whatever knowledge we get out of this group, we have to go do it right away. We have to start moving things, and otherwise things don't move fast enough.
I just wanted to respond. I agree with you, Cam. I think that's why we're here with people who are actually doing stuff every day on the ground to do it together. But I'm just going to respond to you, Paul. I was thinking about your question, is that I think that's why participatory action research was actually developed, and it was developed in Latin America. Really, action research was Western, Northwestern, but it didn't resonate with sort of non-Westernized cultures, and that's why they started to do stuff like PAR, which is based on that sort of popular education approach where people actually define solutions out of their own realities. And so Buddhism, in the case that you were talking about, is going to be one of the central features of both the ways of knowing who we are and also what actions, how we define the problem, what actions we want to take. So I've got some good articles I could share with you on that might be of use for your community.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.